Hello, how are you, Ash?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm excited. I didn't really have time to like make bullet points on what to talk about, but we're just gonna wing it.
Yeah, we'll let it flow.
You said you have like a client coming at 1 p.m. for you?
Yeah, it's like a virtual client session at 1, so I don't have to go anywhere at least.
Okay, awesome. I thought for a moment I thought it was like dog training or something related to dog training.
Well, so it technically is, but it's behavior consulting, so it's like I'm not like doing anything with the dog. I'm helping kind of coach people on what to do.
I see. Awesome. Let me minimize these windows. Um, but yeah, I mean, we both just came back from Earth expeditions. For viewers that don't know, an Earth expedition is with Miami University's Project Dragonfly, which Ashley and I are both in. It's a master's MA in biology, and we have to do 3 expeditions every year to get the degree and a lot of coursework as well. But she just came back from Namibia, and I came back from Kenya. It was Mine was incredible. It was life changing. I'm sure yours was too. So
Mhm.
I'll just say real quick that mine was beyond my expectations. Like it went so well. It was like every animal that I wanted to see, I saw at very close proximity because that's not guaranteed. Like to see lions is not guaranteed, but
Yeah.
we saw everything, and the mainly that was secondary to the people and the networking. Like I will always have the Maasai with me in like the fact that I have Maasai friends has not sunk in yet. It's like
Oh, it's so cool.
yeah, because I'm always honored to meet indigenous peoples from indigenous communities. Like I cherish every moment of conversation that I have with them. But it felt like we were family, and they I have their WhatsApp, and I can go back. I'll have places to stay. So my world has opened up in terms of opportunities to like record videos and make like short YouTube documentaries on tribes in Africa. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back there.
So
Yeah.
cool. I love that. I'm excited for you. And yeah, and I'm thinking about Kenya even for my third one. I was like, I need to get back to Africa in some way. It was so amazing for me too.
Yeah. So we can dive into yours first. Your Earth expedition, Namibia. If you want to just start talking about it, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't even prepare specific questions for this.
No, yeah. Well, ours was focused on big cat conservation. And so we were staying at the Cheetah Conservation Fund in Namibia. And it was super cool. I kind of thought going into it it'd be all about like big cats and their ecology or ethology and things like that. But it was really people focused too, as I feel like this program has a good way of showing us and all of these interconnected kind of systemic issues that are affecting the cheetah's conservation. So we really like kind of dove into how to help just like local people support like farming practices with livestock guardian dogs and it was just really, yeah, really eye-opening. And I loved the partners we had. Saw so many amazing animals. We saw wild cheetah, which is like super rare.
Oh,
And then we went to Etosha National Park one day and saw like some of the most like endangered animals that are so rare to see, where it was really cool.
it's called Atosha.
Yeah, yeah, you should look it up. It's fascinating. I've never really heard of it before, and it's like in the salt pan, and so you look around, it feels like you're in a lake, but it's all technically just like salt. It's
That's
really interesting. Yeah, and they have like tons of wildlife out there. It was really cool.
rare species.
Yeah, like Jackie was traveling with me and all the species she never saw in South Africa, she got to see there. She was like, "Oh my like, bucket list
Yeah,
species."
that's awesome how so from the previous Brazil EE you had Jacqueline, and was that it or you had other people
Yeah.
from the
Yeah,
Brazil?
she was the only one from our trip. And so me and her actually extended our travels in Africa together. So we were there for a month and we went to Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa.
Oh wow, a month in Africa. Wow.
Yeah, it was
I was
awesome.
there, yeah, I was there for a little over 2 weeks, and actually just exactly 2 weeks, and our expedition was 8 days. So yeah, I had a little bit less than a week in Nairobi where I was at an Airbnb, super cheap Airbnb. It was 14 US dollars a night. And
Wow.
yeah, but it had
That's,
everything. It had a bed, and like I just came from 8 days of camping on a thin mattress, so that felt luxurious to me. I was like satisfied with what I got there.
yeah, yeah. I was curious. So the whole Kenya trip's mostly camping for the amenities, or is it
Yeah.
like,
It's only one night where you're not camping, which is when we meet up at the Wildebeest Eco Camp Hotel in Nairobi.
oh,
And after
cool.
that day, it's all just you're in a tent. It's a heavy duty tent though, and there's a mattress, so I wasn't uncomfortable, but they're small tents, and like a room with a legit room with a bed will always beat that, you know. But
Yeah,
I had a blast camping. We all did. Our group was great. We didn't have like too many complainers. I don't think. Yeah, none at
good.
all. And at night, we would get awoken to sounds of hyenas. Like a hyena clan would move through our camp every night at around 3:30, and baboons and hyenas would like. It seemed like they were fighting at night. It was
I'm
crazy.
sure they were.
Yeah.
Wow,
Like
that's so cool.
at 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. to like 4, I would get woken up. Your eyes would just shoot wide open because you get woken up by this distant whooping of hyenas. Like they go like,
Mm.
and then they move in, and you hear the crunching of thorns as they're walking, and it's magical. I wasn't ever scared. I was just fascinated. Um,
Yeah, I felt similarly. I thought I'd be really scared at night, like hearing all the noises, and I never really was scared at night. I did get scared on a couple walking safaris that were not with our EEE that me and Jackie just did, but besides that, there weren't really any moments where I was like nervous. But the hyenas were such a cool like sound, and it's almost like a symphony that they
oh
create
yeah,
at night.
I love hyenas, and you said you went on a guided walk, or what?
Yeah, we did two guided walking safaris. One was in Botswana, and they're not our guide was not armed, and then our guide in South Africa was armed, and we were tracking forest elephants, and it was nuts.
That's crazy. Wait, no, yeah, I would definitely feel different if my guide was unarmed. It totally changes how you walk and traverse, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, and just like your brain goes in a worst case scenario. And so the unarmed one was my first day really in Africa in the wilderness. And I was like, oh, we're really jumping right into it, just camping and doing walking safaris in Botswana. But we were at the Okavango Delta and
Oh my
just
God.
walking around. We didn't really, we like our guys were on the like honestly very far end of the spectrum of being really, really safe about how close we got, I thought. But it was still the first time you see, an elephant on foot, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, and they can just plow through the forest to get you if they want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Had way
crazy.
too many close calls with bull elephant and musk where I was like, I think, yeah, I was not anticipating that.
Dang, did it ever get dangerous? Like where one charged at you two, you and Jackie?
No, we never got charged at, but we had several situations that could have been dangerous. But
Okay,
yeah,
that's
like
so
we
nuts.
saw them kind of like strutting, coming our way, and like because you'll run into them by surprise. So then you're just like, oh no, and then you got to run out of there.
Yeah.
And then I had like a couple moments I was just nervous when we were doing water hole counts with the school. Like we had a kind of dicey moment with baboons. That freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah,
But
they're
other
kind of
than that,
scary.
yeah, the baboons will surprise you. They're a lot bigger than you think.
Oh yeah,
But
the
yeah,
biggest ones are like 150 pounds, and yeah, but
yeah,
they're
yeah, the
fascinating
males were
too. Yeah. Real quick on
yeah,
hyenas, I love hyenas, and like all large carnivores, I'm just fascinated by. And I got back into
yeah.
drawing. So I got back into like drawing and sketching. So I just drew this. I just want to show
Oh,
you how much I love hyenas.
oh
That's
my
like the
God, yeah, they're so amazing. Those are great drawings,
thank
and
you.
I
That
also find
was
it really
it took
fascinating.
it took like 4 hours to do this because I kept readjusting the lines for proportions and stuff. But that's the full body. And then here I labeled like the muscles and explained like the little morphology details. The sagittal.
So
I love them.
yeah, they're such fascinating animals. We saw I only saw one spotted hyena, but we had a brown hyena that was all around us. We just couldn't see it, but we saw their tracks.
Okay. Yeah,
Super cool.
I didn't even know like their enamel in their teeth are like if you put it in a microscope, it's different than the enamel of a lion. It's like zigzag pattern enamel in hyena teeth, whereas lion enamel is just like layered like straight lines, and that's because it makes hyena teeth harder. So they hyena teeth can't break easily, which is why they can eat bones, and lions don't even attempt to eat the biggest bones. It's just fascinating. Like their teeth are indestructible.
Wow. And their heads are way more massive than you'd think from TV.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. At one point, this was at a game, a safari game drive in Nairobi National Park after the EE that I did. And we were looking at these two jackals that kept darting around our car, and we kind of followed them into this little valley. So we were just watching the jackals because they were giving us quite the show. It's like they look like little coyotes. So cool. And I was just looking at the jackals, and then I look off 50 feet away into the tall grass because I saw some rustling, and then I saw like a hyena head come up out of the grass with blood on its mouth. And it was just like it looked so big because I was just looking at the jackals. The size of the jackal's head was in my mind. So like when I looked at the hyena, it looked like a dinosaur. It looked huge. It looked like a beast. And it just went back down under, eating whatever it was eating.
Wow, that's so special. You get to see that.
Yeah,
I'm
it was.
jealous.
I couldn't record it because this was my primary camera on the trip, the iPhone 15 Pro. So I couldn't take
Wow.
advantage of distance, but I got incredible shots of just stuff that was close and the people and the work we were doing. I got some of the best shots of my life on this trip. 420 gigabytes worth of footage, all in this thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I have enough content to make like multiple videos. And I've
Yeah.
just been kind of settling back down, organizing everything, gearing up for just spending hours in post production to produce mainly YouTube content, but also I want to post some Instagram reels here and there with good songs. It was magical. Like the last night, the Maasai gave us a gift, which was a dance ceremony. That was their surprise they had planned for us. And so we danced with the Maasai under this gigantic fire underneath the stars, and I did the jumping contest that the men Maasai have to do. You got to jump, and whoever jumps highest in their culture, they get the most vibes or something. It was funny.
Yeah.
I was the only guy in this whole trip.
Of course. Yeah. I think we had one guy on our trip too.
Oh,
That's
I
funny.
mean, it wasn't much of
No,
an
that,
issue for me. I was kind of nervous at first, so like, what is gonna happen? But like, I had slight apprehension prior to the EE, but this EE, like, it went so smoothly. Like, I think it's mainly because of my self growth. Like, I learned to just, I became a much better listener. Number one, like, I listen without waiting to say my next thing now. And I learned that skill. I don't think I had that skill in the first EE, which led to some friction on, and I think a lot of that was because of me. But that did not happen here. I was just super respectful, and when I did talk, I chose my words very carefully. And well, I didn't feel like I was stressed out either. We felt like we could just it was a safe space, and we just
yeah.
became a very tight knit group. Even our professors were like, "This is a special group right here." So
Oh,
that went great. The human side of it.
good. I love that. And well, you deserve that because it's just refreshing and nice to be in a space where you feel comfortable to just be yourself and speak freely. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that you had a good experience and loved your classmates. We had a really nice group too, and very
Mm.
similar personalities, some different ones, but it worked really well. We were all like just
Okay.
had the same sense of humor and just felt like, yeah, it worked out really well for us too.
Yeah, because I've heard some nightmare stories of certain EEs that did not work out well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, what was like the main focus of your EE? Because for us, it was wildlife and people in integrated landscapes, and then a bunch of sub focuses underneath that umbrella. But yeah, what was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. So it was labeled as like big cat conservation, but it was really human wildlife conflict, and like kind of balancing like human land use and wildlife priorities. So it was a lot about how, to kind of live in harmony with predators and things like that. And specifically in Namibia, but I would argue it could be replicated in probably lots of parts of Africa at least.
Yeah, there's just so much that happens on an EE. I'm trying to like single something out. I did have a question about what one thing you mentioned already. I wrote a note. You said you worked with livestock guardian dogs.
Yeah, that was super
So
cool.
that I want to know more about. Like, so like you're
Yeah.
working with farmers and they had livestock guardian dogs.
So the Cheetah Conservation Fund kind of started off as like the director, and then she kind of like grew this really big network trying to kind of solve problems that the local community would share. And so one of them was like predators were killing livestock. And so they started this program teaching farmers to kind of bring in their livestock at night when predators hunt, and then using livestock guardian dogs that are these like massive dogs, or Anatolian shepherds, or Kengals, they're also called. Their bite force is stronger than a lion's. And I was like, no way, is that true? Googled it. It's true.
Yeah, I
And
knew of Kangles.
they're
I always
huge.
wanted to see one. Yeah, that's so you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a whole breeding program there, and then they raise the dogs with the livestock, and then like they don't even do training. They're just like, oh, it's kind of instinctual is how they go about it there. And the dogs will just like bark a lot, put up a big, display of, it's called like ritualized aggression, which means they're not necessarily going and fighting all these animals. They might, but they're acting like they would. So it scares off, especially the cheetah. They're kind of like more flighty. So they'll protect the livestock by like having that big bark and that big body behind them. And they're really bold where they would probably go for whatever was trying to get in, but it works really successfully where it's drastically reduced livestock killings, and then also reduces farmer retaliation to kill like cheetahs or lions or whatever after that. And then they also did, as a part of that program, kind of teaching people how to identify predator kills. So if a goat was killed, how to tell what actually killed it. So that way they're not, killing a cheetah when it wasn't a cheetah,
Okay.
kind of a thing.
That is so cool. You're making me want to sign up for Namibia EE.
Yeah, you would love it.
I'm debating between Namibia and Mongolia, but I did not know there
Oh,
was such a focus on farming, especially with the livestock guardian dogs. That's so cool.
yeah, they had a really excellent like farm management program of not wanting to like talk at people and be like, hey, this is how you should farm, but they have this whole educational opportunity that people can have access to for free if interested, to
Mhm.
see how they run and operate their farm. And they went into like the goats and how they have just like healthier practices on like, I'm probably going to butcher this because I don't know farming as well, but
Oh, you're
basically to
good.
make sure that some goats don't get like overbred, and that they're rotating them on the land. And I feel like it would totally be your jam, and
Oh, yeah.
it's really interesting to learn. And they have a whole like um, just like a sustainable like garden for all of the workers and visitors that come to eat at CCF. They like
Okay.
grow all their own food there too.
And were you guys ever in tents or it was like,
No, we had it was like a campground, but like there it was covered and enclosed, but it's kind of bare bones. So it's just like cement ground and like a bed, and that was all that was really in a room. It was dark. There was hardly any light. And then you had to walk pretty far for like showers and things like that. But I would say step up from camping, but it wasn't like as nice as Brazil was for those amenities.
what? Yeah, we Brazil, we had a crazy situation at that farm. You know that one,
Yeah,
it's referred to as the Encanto Palace in the Project Dragonfly crowd. It's
yeah, it's so
the
nice.
yeah, that was insane, Cordero's farm. But what did you enjoy most about your EE? Because I know you probably love the dogs the most, knowing you. But anything else?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I found that really interesting because I was just geeking out about all the dog stuff. But what surprised me the most was learning how this one woman, Dr. Marker, just came to Namibia on her own. I forget like when it was, but let's say around the 90s or even before then, and created this whole project on her, not on her own, but she started it on her own. And so it was just cool to hear from her perspective how she talked to locals, built rapport, got trust and respect as this like foreigner who came in and at a time when women aren't really respected that much, and then kind of built this from the ground up from listening to people. So it's almost as if like those conversations she had formed this whole plan to make this conservation project successful. So there's so many little tidbits, and it's such a really just a really beautiful community of incredibly intelligent people that are passionate about what they do, making a huge difference. And it's that was my favorite part, was just like, wow, this came from somebody's brain, and then they created like all of this that we're sitting on. Like, it was just really inspirational.
And like, so the farming and the livestock guardian dogs, was that like one day out of the EE or like 2, 3 days?
Yeah, so it was all at CCF. Like, they have all these little pockets for it. So one day it was like our livestock guardian dog day, and we had a scat detection dog day, and like then they had, well, we're going to go in and see how they do farm management. So they, similar to how Brazil had like kind of your little days that were different topics or like lectures. That's what it was. But also they really integrated a lot of like safaris and looking at animals too. So they balanced it well of doing your lectures, learning, and then also seeing cool stuff while you're in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like I could manage the pacing of this EE way better because it was my second one and I learned so much from the first one on how to manage
Yeah.
everything, manage time, manage your mind. Um, that's so cool. And then what are the other focuses of your EE other than working with the livestock guardian dogs and the farmers? Or was it every day you're working with a different type of farmer?
So we weren't necessarily working with farmers. It was more like learning from the directors of the farming program that are like, hey, we're the ones who go out here and we're working with the farmers. We had a lecture that was done by a farmer, which was cool and absolutely mind blowing. He was kind of controversial, which I loved because I love stretching my mind and having different perspectives on things. And he talked about like poaching and just about all these issues and how we have our mindset, let's say in the United States, where it's like, oh, okay, this is how we have to handle conservation, or this is good, this is bad. And he just really opened our perspectives to there's a lot of nuance and gray area. And actually he
Oh yeah.
believed like making poaching legal would actually decrease the demand and then probably decrease a lot of the after effects that we're seeing, and that there's a sustainable way you could allow like hunting or removal of,
Oh yeah.
ivory, whatever it was. Yeah, it was just interesting where they were like, you're going to be like really stretched. It's going to be controversial, but I loved it. I thought it was a really interesting lecture.
Yeah. Conservation is so black and white. I mean, so gray, not black and white, because
Yeah.
it's so complicated. It's a complex thing. And one of the focuses of our EE was the difference of Western style conservation and how they do conservation in East Africa. Because in Western style conservation, which is you just set aside large, vast areas of pristine, untouched nature as like a national park or a national reserve, and then you go as visitors, not as part of the ecosystem, but as like completely separate from the ecosystem. You're here to take pictures and leave. Um, can't disturb anything. Definitely can't harvest from a national park. And I don't agree with that. I think we should be sustainably harvesting from nature still. I don't think we're I think we're part of the ecosystem. I know we are. So as like somebody I hunt and I fish, and I didn't know how to explain my viewpoint properly in the first EE, which is why I probably didn't feel like I could say what I wanted to say because I knew there's a lot of vegans and vegetarians in our group. But this time around, I was able to introduce myself in a way that was so good because I was like, hey, I grew up hunting and fishing, and that to me, that is like the best way to connect with nature for food acquisition instead of
Hmm.
supporting like factory farms, like if it's done sustainably. And it's like you're now putting yourself as another species of that ecosystem. So obviously you'll have such a deeper connection with that ecosystem if you're a part of it instead of just a visitor. And
Hmm.
that's a big part of how they do conservation in East Africa. It's a lot more coexistence instead of separation, which is Western style still. It was started with by Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir when they decided to create the national parks. But that was great that they did that, but it's not, it has its flaws, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're not separate from nature. And it also blows my mind how in national parks in the US, the visitor centers, they only provide food that helps to destroy the environment. It's all processed foods that they serve as.
Right? I,
Yeah. So that's just so ironic to me. You're here, you are at this place to celebrate nature, but you can only buy foods that help contribute to the destruction of nature through monoculture, agriculture, and pesticides and stuff. Like literally, it's just potato chips and factory farmed meat that they sell at the visitor centers. There's no option.
mm-hmm.
I think there should be just at least an option to eat at least regenerative meats from farms nearby. If it's not local, at least regenerative meats, instead of factory farmed meats. So there's a lot of room for improvement with Western style conservation. And it was refreshing to see a style of conservation in East Africa where it was so much coexistence. We would be driving through, when we drive it out of Nairobi, we pass so many like farmers like walking their herd of goats or cattle, just like in the city, eating patches of grass within the city. So anytime you bought meat in Nairobi, it was like all grass fed, no chemicals. It was the best meat, and it was never frozen. So you had to chew a lot more, and I like that. Now that nowadays there's this device called the Jaws or Sizer. It's like a plastic device you put in your mouth to work out your jaw muscle, but it's like that only is needed because we're only eating melt in your mouth foods all the time. We should be solving that problem instead of creating this device.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and, it's similar, but there's probably some differences too from Eastern Africa and more of the southern parts of Africa. But even country to country in Southern Africa, it was different. Where in Botswana, like there were hardly any fences, so livestock and horses and street dogs were roaming amongst elephant and like giraffe, and it was just wild to see. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And and I've never seen all the animals like domesticated and wild cared for so well, where like normally you travel and you see the street dogs, they're all raggedy and kind of disgusting.
Mhm.
There they were like vaccinated, healthy, happy, like everyone. I don't know, maybe this was just like my perspective, but it looked like it was very harmonized and it was really beautiful to see. Where then in Southern Africa or South Africa, I mean, there was just a lot of fences, and it was like you're in the city, you don't see any wildlife unless it's at night and they're like coming out of the woodworks. But it was like it felt very separate,
Uh-huh.
of similar to how we live, in the States, of just like, oh, I'm in my neighborhood, and maybe you'd see a coyote, but it's very rare. It feels very separate. And Namibia was kind of a mix where they had fences, and it was also like very wild, but there were more fences than Botswana too. So it's just interesting all the differences.
Is Namibia like Namibia like mainly arid, rocky terrain, or are there forests and stuff?
Yeah, Namibia is mostly sub-arid, or at least where we were, it's like mostly desert and hot and very cold. And then like South Africa had so many different microclimates. It was nuts. And Botswana, at least where we were, I don't know about the rest of it, was kind of like, yeah, it was like sub-arid savanna, but also with the delta, there was that water source there.
So you guys was the EE located in southern Namibia?
It was, I feel like it was technically more northern. I would have to like look at a map because you fly into Windhoek and then I think we go north from Windhoek up.
So you guys went to South Africa, just you and Jacqueline, for your own. Okay, God, that's so cool. So did you drive
Mhm.
or take a plane or?
No, we flew. So we flew into Durban, which is on the east side of South Africa.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I was really trying to see Tanzania as well. I was trying to put that on, but it was just too much of a commitment. I'm gonna make a separate trip for Tanzania because that's one of the places I want to go to really bad. Um,
Yeah, me too.
Wait, so you flew from Namibia? Was it like a legitimate airlines or was it like a smaller bush plane?
No, it was a legit legit big airplane going from Namibia technically to Johannesburg and then Johannesburg to Durban. So there's at least two, if not, I think there's actually three airports in South Africa. There's like Cape
Okay.
Town, Johannesburg, and Durban because it's pretty big
Okay.
country.
Because we took a smaller plane as part of the EE. That was part of the reason why this EE cost a little bit more because this plane ride. And it was a luxurious plane, but it was a smaller one. It was a really cool plane ride. It felt like some Jurassic Park thing. It was a very like brand new plane, and our pilot was super professional and nice, and I got to sit right next to him, so I saw all the buttons and stuff because my professor made me the designated like video taker because of my iPhone 15 Pro, and this thing allowed me to have no worry about space limitations. And
Nice.
yeah, so that was awesome. And the plane ride was from Amboseli National Park. So we camped for 4 days or 3 or 4 days in Amboseli, not inside park boundaries, but just outside the park boundary where we were still in the Amboseli ecosystem, and we heard hyenas and stuff at night. And then we took a plane to a lot closer to the Masai Mara. We weren't in the Masai Mara, we were in the South Rift Valley, but just over the escarpment. We could see this escarpment in the Loita Hills. Over those is like the plateau where the Masai Mara is. So we were close to it. And the South Rift Valley is amazing. It's not a national park. It's owned by Serralo, which is funded by Cincinnati. So that whole region was like ours. We didn't wait for lines of cars to pass by if like a cheetah was spotted, and we saw a cheetah twice. It
Oh,
was
cool.
yeah, that was rare, right? Cheetahs are rare. So you saw one too. That's awesome.
Yeah, technically I saw three wild cheetah, but one time I only saw their legs, but I knew it was cheetah legs.
Yeah. The cheetah we saw the first time was the most adrenaline induced wildlife sighting I've ever experienced because the sun was setting, so it was getting darker. And we were just our driver was one of the Maasai men, two of them up front, our professor in the back with me and about five students. And these cars are like huge Land Cruisers. You could stand up in it. Did you have cars like that as well for the Namibia one? Yeah, I'm sure you
Yeah.
did. Yeah. Those cars are sick. But yeah, so like I was looking right, everybody else was looking forward and left, but I was like the only one looking directly right. And we're just looking, he's got his light, his torch, and it's getting darker and darker. And then I see this cheetah like literally 15 feet from the vehicle, and it was in full view, but the grass was like also kind of covering it. And it was like in this pounce position, like kind of scared. Like he's like the cheetah's just like, what's going on? Why is this car getting so close to me? And I just saw it and I'm like, cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. And I kept the volume low, but I like silently screamed, cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. And then everybody started freaking out, and I was like, at two, at two, at two, like on the clock, 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And then we saw it galloping away, and it didn't leave. It stuck around the road for a while. It gave us quite the show. It went up on this mound and just started like looking her shoulder at us. So it was like a photo session almost. It
Wow.
was crazy.
Oh, cool. Did you hear them vocalize at all? They sound like little house cats.
I did not. We did not.
Shocked me. I was like this big cat, and we're all like, I'm coming into it thinking it'll be similar to like a lion noise or something, but like smaller. And it was literally meowing like a house cat. It was like,
Yeah.
this little baby cat. I was like, from a cheetah? I was like, that's what you sound
Yeah,
like.
kind of similar to mountain lions, I think, because mountain lions can't roar either.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome. Like that close of a sighting. That's awesome.
I heard lions roar, like at Nairobi National Park, like at the animal orphanage that I went to. They roared, with nothing but a fence separating me, and that was amazing because
So
it
cool.
reverberates your diaphragm in your chest, and like, yeah.
That was something that like stood with me too. I didn't hear the lions roar, but hearing like the elephant like grumble vibrated the whole forest or floor or wherever where you feel it in your body. I was like, this is nuts. Like I did feel like Jurassic Park the whole time. I was
Yeah.
like, these are like dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, it was very much Jurassic Park vibes. And at one point, the girls in the back of the car, they were humming the Jurassic Park song. as we were going through. It was so funny and awesome. And I'm a huge
Oh,
Jurassic Park fan. This is a Lego
oh,
Jurassic Park vehicle. Yeah.
I love Jurassic Park too. It's one of my favorite movies.
93 one is my favorite. I'm sure
The
you
which
love
one?
that. The very first one, 1993.
Yeah, me
Where
too.
that's where this is from. This is Dennis Nedry, the fat guy that got eaten by the
Yeah.
spitting one, the one that went like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Such
Yeah,
a
I
good movie.
love it.
Funny.
I read the book too. I'm a bit of a dinosaur nerd, and I did a podcast with another Jurassic Park fan 2 days ago. She's from the Kenya EE. Her name's Eileen, and she does not eat any animal products, and we're like super close friends. And I love that because I always felt like I had this like separation between me and the vegan community, but I want to have vegans come up more in my podcast, the open-minded ones, because
Right.
I'm an open-minded omnivore, so I'm willing to just talk to anyone if they're open-minded. So yeah,
Well,
it
I
was
think
great to talk to her.
minded. Yeah, I was gonna say being open-minded is so important because otherwise it just you won't ever grow or expand. And like we were saying earlier, sometimes things have unintended consequences that come from good intent. And I think that being open-minded allows you to be flexible and change sometimes for the better, or you're constantly pivoting as we learn more information. So I feel like that's huge. And being able to have a conversation with someone with different beliefs is so important and a life skill more people need.
Yeah, and she's like, I have no problem with meat eaters that are conservationists and that don't eat factory farm meat. But what else did I want to talk about? Oh yeah. So on the game drive that we saw the cheetah on that same day earlier, we saw an elephant carcass, and it had been eaten. So like its guts were all strewn about, and the smell.
Wow.
Oh my gosh! Like before we were even 100 feet to it, we had to all just cover up our noses because it was
Wow.
growing, and literally buckets of maggots on it, and little animals coming taking scraps of meats. It was a spectacle to behold. I was fascinated. I didn't really care about the smell or anything. I just wanted to get as close as I could get to take footage, and the trunk was completely separated from the body, and it's a full-grown elephant. So like what could take a trunk off of an elephant? So it had to have been feasted on by hyenas and lions at night. And we were talking about we should put like a nighttime trail camera on this carcass because of all the shit that's happening at night. Like there's probably lions and hyenas fighting over this thing every night.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I things like that always surprise me too that I wasn't anticipating seeing. It like wasn't an expectation of mine, and then you're just blown away by just nature, being nature, and these sights and smells and sounds that you never would have access to if you're not physically there in person.
Exactly. I didn't the expectations I had were just like an animal just standing there, but like I couldn't even have thought up of that as an expectation. Um,
No.
what's some cool things you saw that you did not expect?
Yeah, I thought all of the carcasses were really interesting too, and the footprints of like tracking some of these animals and seeing how big like an elephant, track or footprint is, and the it's almost like they have their fingerprint on there that you can see. Like that was so cool to me, and learning like the sounds and calls of the birds and how if you learn some of the calls of the birds, it will guide you to finding some animals and being able to just pinpoint what all the sounds we were hearing were. And even in one of my walking safaris, like we were walking by like buffalo and warthog, and I think we saw rhino from a distance, but it wasn't like immersed in seeing all of these animals, but it was my favorite experience because we're walking in the land, we're like going through the bush, we're hearing the sounds of the forest just light up from elephant. Like it was so cool. We could smell leopard, we could smell a bull elephant and musk. Like it was crazy. So that was my favorite, was the like full sensory um yeah, like experience. The visual was cool, but after we like saw all of our animals, it was really cool to just to be like foot on foot with them.
Mhm. You said you could smell the leopard?
Yeah, so I
Crazy.
learned their urine smells like popcorn.
Oh,
So yeah, so if you smell popcorn when you're in the bush, that means a leopard is probably close by.
and so you actually smell like leopard urine? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. We
Like
smelled
that's
that. And we saw
normal.
like Yeah, we saw like scratch marks on a tree from the leopard, and then we heard all of the I think in this case it was monkeys. This was in South Africa. I don't know the species of monkey, but they would like scream. There's this very clearly an alarm call for the leopard. And we looked at this little forest patch, and the whole tree and forest was like swaying from the monkeys freaking out about this leopard. Then the elephant we're talking. So we're walking into this scene like Jurassic Park, and the whole forest is just sideways. I was like, we're going towards this on foot. Okay.
That was just you and Jacqueline or the
It
EE?
was me. It was me and Jackie, and then Jackie's friend in South Africa, and then like two random people on this tour with us.
Okay.
And we're always like, so probably like five of us or so on foot,
That's
walking towards it. Yeah, it was crazy. And then even the guide when we got in the forest was like, this is getting very dangerous because the forest elephant will just appear, and when they want to like threaten you, they'll circle around you and just cause chaos. And you can't see what's going on in the forest. Like we're in the bush, it's open. You can be like, oh, let's avoid mom and baby. But in the forest, it's like, oh, surprise, you're in between a baby and a mom and you could die.
dang, so that's really different than being in a vehicle, what you guys did.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whole
Jackie was
nother
adamant.
ballgame.
Yeah. Cause I don't know, I think you probably remember she was a guide or she was a walking
Yeah.
safari guide in South
Yeah.
Africa. So
In
she's
South
got to
Africa.
do,
That's awesome. So
yeah.
that's
She was like, we
how she's got connections there that you probably benefited from.
yeah, I felt like I had my own personal like safari tour guide the entire time I was in Africa. I was so lucky like to
Yeah.
share that with her and
I want to
see all
travel
these
in South Africa with
experiences.
Jackie. She's
Yeah, I know.
the person to
I
do it
was
with.
seriously, I felt so lucky. I was like, this is the best person to do this with. And she just would like, she's like made it so special and geared all these parts of it to me and knew what I was interested in and pointed them out. I was like, I am so grateful that I had that experience with her.
Yeah, and she's proficient with the rifle and everything. She's overall
Yeah.
pretty much a badass.
I know. I was like, she is a huge badass.
That's how I
It was
felt
very
about her
cool.
when I got to do the first EE with her. She knew how to handle herself.
Yeah, I know. The second I saw her, I was like, that girl's special. I want to follow her. And I remember when we did our night hike, like one of the first nights in
Oh,
Brazil, I remember like seeing all the stuff she knew. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with this girl, but she knows what she's doing. And I'm going to follow her because
yeah,
I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like, I know nothing about like the wilderness or in Brazil. And I was just so green at the time.
yeah. You know me, like I need to connect. I need to like if there's something that can't like kill me or hurt me immediately, I will want to get as close as possible, and not to where I'm disturbing it, but like if there's a moth, I'll hold that moth and I'll put it back where I found it. Like it's not black and
Mhm.
white to me, in terms of like don't touch anything. That's a little
Mm.
extreme for me. Also don't harm it. It's like it's a gray area there.
Yeah.
First night was awesome though. That first night where it was like every 5 steps there would be something on the ground. It's such a biodiverse region of the world, South America.
Yeah. That experience blew my mind because I think old me would have walked there and not have noticed all the little things. I would have just been like looking for the big animals.
Yeah,
And then having met everyone, I feel like you especially, you were so interested in the bugs and all these like little things that I was like, let me look. And then I started looking at all the little things. I was like, wait, this is so cool.
it's so and it's a mega biodiverse region of Earth. Brazil, the stick bug that we saw, the big ass spiders, the moth, and that was like such a short amount of time. Like imagine if you were
Yeah.
doing that for like weeks, how much you would
Right.
catalog. I feel like there would be a good chance you would find undiscovered, unnamed species if you were in the Western Amazon, Peruvian Amazon, and even
Mhm.
where we were. It's just different. Like a forest in Michigan, you can't just find something every 5 steps. It's not that biodiverse. You have to, yeah, it's more like sparse, the wildlife. But
Mhm.
there, it's dense. It's like, oh, the blue morpho butterfly that we saw. I just
Yeah.
love it. Yeah. And you and somebody were walking on our Brazil EE, and we caught Lila, I think, was showing on the laptop that was caught on the trail camera. And then the mom.
Yes, it was me and Lorelai we did like a morning hike because I was waking up every day at like 4 or 5 a.m. because I A needed some alone time and didn't know that like there would be none, and that's how I recharge. And then B, I really wanted to like just be there when the sun rose and like see all the animals like awaken. And so I was always out there like meditating, doing my thing. And then I ran into Lorelai. She's like, let's walk together because you can't walk alone out there. And we were just like walking around. And then, yeah, I think that puma was on that camera trap like an hour or two before we were. And I had this deep feeling when I was meditating out there alone. I was in a well-lit area, like not going into the wilderness there, but I had this deep feeling I was being watched by a big animal. And I was like, I'm not gonna go further. It was probably that puma.
That's crazy. And
Yeah.
when they showed it on the laptop, it was a big mountain lion. It was a big puma. It was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, it could have been puma lunch.
Yeah. And I think as the puma was the biggest predator in that ecosystem we were in. Puma and maned wolf, which is an
Hmm.
amazing animal as well. It's like a something out of a fantasy book. It's like
Hmm.
half deer, half wolf. It's got those long
Oh,
legs. Well, it's
yeah. I'm
not
gonna have to
actually
take
half deer. It's just like
no,
the
but like that's like yeah. I'm gonna have to take a look at them. So I remember hearing about them, but I wasn't that familiar with what they looked like.
oh yeah, it's a beautiful. It looks like a dog. It looks like a dog breed, but it is just majestic looking. Um, on your EE, what's another like subtopic that you guys focused on one of those
Yeah,
days?
we had a day where we were talking about it's called the bush block, and it's this I might butcher explaining this again, so take it with a grain of salt.
Oh yeah,
But
okay.
it is their way of kind of combating bush encroachment, which is like essentially just too much thorny bush being grown out there that then the animals who need that habitat can't roam and hunt. So like the cheetah can't go through that thick bush,
Okay.
and it can like I don't know. There's a lot of other like repercussions that come from it, and so they'll turn part of like this bush overgrowth into these blocks that are really sustainable, more sustainable than coal way of like starting fire and keeping that fire going for longer, and then they'll sell them. So all this is like at CCF, the whole factory for it, and they sell it all around Namibia, maybe other parts of Southern Africa as well. But essentially, like anytime we needed a fire, our whole trip, we used bush block, and it just is a really clean burn and it's sustainable. And then like purchasing it helps people have like in the local area have jobs. It's just like a very like sustainable from start to finish um, product, and is helping the habitat that the cheetah need and all that good stuff. So we learned all about their bush block program on one day.
It's
I feel
called
like
bush
you would really,
block.
yeah, I feel like you would really be interested in that. It was fascinating.
Yeah, because it's
And
like
it
you're
has,
helping the ecosystem while you're getting firewood and all these other benefits. That's so cool.
yeah, and it's like, and you're helping the economy from it too. So then it's helping we learned so many issues were stemming from like systemic racism or just like socioeconomic issues. So it has these trickle down effects of helping the well-being of the people, which helps the well-being of the ecosystem. And like you're saying, they're not separate, we're the same. And yeah, I think both need to be part of that conservation plan, is like helping the earth and the plants and the animals, and helping the people and their well-being and their ability to have food and a roof over their head.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's way better, way more sustainable to do it that way than to just buy from like factory farm sources where it's like on a conveyor belt to be produced. It has a much higher carbon footprint too, to be produced in so many steps and processes. Like you could just go straight to nature and harvest it from there. You just took away all the steps that the processed products will have in between being produced and getting onto your plate. Wait, so it's called
Hmm.
bush blocks. Is that similar to acacia trees, or
It might be. I'm not entirely sure.
it just
It's,
reminds me of acacias because we had a lot of acacia trees. I tore my puffer jacket on one. Uh,
yeah, we had a lot of acacia too. And it was, I'm definitely not like a plant expert by any means. So, and when I was learning about it, I was just like so in awe that I was like, my memory of it and explanation might be not the best, but I remember just being this is so cool.
I'll just search it up real quick because I'm just curious. Bush.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they spelt it like Bush and then Blok, I want to say.
Okay, okay, no C.
Think. And yeah, just do bush block Namibia or like cheetah conservation and it should come up.
Okay. Oh yeah, I think I see it. It's like I just see
Hmm.
all these rolls, the tubes.
Yep. Yeah, it's like this brown, like little, yeah, roll, but it's made um of bush that's been like kind of pressed down into almost sawdust material. And
That's
it
what,
is a really long, clean burn. Yeah, better than coal.
yeah, that's so cool. You're helping the ecosystem and like how you just mentioned, we should be harvesting from the ecosystem instead of factory production. Makes me think of, I just want to share the sentence with that Joel Salatin told me. He's a regenerative farmer in America, and we did like one of these type of interviews. And within that interview, I learned so much from him. One of the things he said was the North American continent can produce enough food, like the land can produce enough food to feed the human population. It's just it can definitely do that, actually, he said. And it's just a matter of changing our systems that are already in
Hmm.
place. Yeah. Because nowadays you can just go into a Jack in the Box and you got yourself like this piece of meat that just, you have no idea where it came from. Such a disconnect. Whereas
Yeah.
if we were doing it how indigenous peoples did it on the continent, it was like you would literally do everything to get that meat. You would have to literally hunt for it, which is
Hmm.
a deeper connection than that.
Yeah, we had a similar like talk about that and how like a lot of Westerners will be like, "Oh my God, how dare you kill an elephant? Let's put like these rules on. You can't, hunt elephant." But like the indigenous tribes of the area, like they would hunt one elephant and it would feed everybody. They'd use every part of the elephant. It was super sustainable and part of their
Oh,
culture.
that's
Yeah, and to deny people access to practice their culture that has been practiced for thousands of years because we're somewhere else thinking that some animal matters more than like like it's just
yeah. It's not
it
it's
was
not
just
the individual animal that should be prioritized over the whole system here. It's like
yeah, we're all
everything
connected.
dies. Yeah, everything dies.
If it's done sustainably in a way, it's like, okay. And we had a talk too, even about about like hunting and how there's ways to hunt like sustainably, obviously, as you know, and then how putting all these like laws and frameworks over what you can hunt in Africa has like actually made things worse and not sustainable because now there's
Wow.
more of a drive for people wanting, I just want this leopard, give me the leopard, and they like won't follow the rules. They're doing things illegally, or people are like just taking a leopard and putting it somewhere to be easily hunted where it can't defend itself, but they're staging it for
That's not
foreign people.
fine. Yeah.
Right, where it's like, no, but if you allowed it more sustainably and having like, okay, there are certain times of the year or having some parameters over like which leopards or whatever or how many, it could be done, it could be improved because like people aren't going to stop doing whatever is going on and putting laws around it is just like causing people to be sneakier.
Yeah, because
I
every
do think.
animal, like as long as it's sustainable, we should be able to connect with it in that deep sense of where we are also part of its ecosystem. And as
Right.
omnivores, if we can eat it and if we can use every part of it, like that elephant probably you just said supplied everybody in the whole community.
Right.
And one issue we were dealing with was in Amboseli National Park. The elephant populations were super high, and one elephant has such a impact, such a carbon footprint or impact, you could say, on its ecosystem. Like it's an elephant, it's 10,000 plus pounds. So if you have an overpopulation of elephants, it's literally woodland destruction.
Oh yeah.
They prevent regeneration. And elephants are great. They're so intelligent. They should have, I think they should have their own laws, but that's like a whole nother topic. But anyways, if you have too many of them, they're just going to cause a massive imbalance in the ecosystem. And like you got to
Hmm.
protect the ecosystem and not individual animals because that's anthropomorphizing. And Western conservation, in my opinion, I get so much of anthropomorphizing vibes from it. It's like, don't do that and all this stuff. And it's all coming from people that have never actually connected with nature. that those are the people that are saying that type of stuff. So it's frustrating, but I also go at it at a different way, at a different angle where I just explain it. That's why I love these podcasts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I used to, I've kind of like constantly flip-flopped on my whole like mindset on things because I used to look at like a really I can't say that word,
That's hard to say. I stumbled it
I
too.
know, I can't say it, but you know what I'm saying. I used
Yeah.
to do that all the time. And then as I was learning what I learned with dogs, I was like, okay, I should stop doing that. And then actually now I'm like, I kind of take or subscribe to both to a degree of I see the similarity in all life and all living things and also acknowledge differences
Yeah.
and we'll be like, okay, I'm not going to project my human feelings necessarily, but also I think there's a consciousness in a lot of life, and that's a philosophical belief I have. But
Yeah.
it's so how I kind of go about it is I'm like, oh, I would want to respect. Yeah, it's just out of this respect, and I think that we have a lot of similarities, but that doesn't mean I'm not like, murder's always bad. It's like, well, if you're hunting, like this is the circle of life. We need to eat, and it can be
Yeah.
done in this beautiful, respectful way. And I think all these factories are doing it in a horrible way and stripping
And
animals
treating
of
them
their,
as products and not living
yeah.
beings. Yeah.
And then we're so disconnected of like, oh, we don't even know where the meat we eat is from. We don't know what that animal looks like. And people are like, I don't want to see, a chicken be slaughtered. Well, I'm like, well, if you're eating chicken, you should watch it be slaughtered because
Yeah.
that's the reality of the situation. If you don't want to see that, then don't eat it. I don't know.
No, you can't be paying for it to be done behind closed curtains, you know.
Yeah,
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 that's not that doesn't but those people are a lost cause in my opinion, the ones that don't even want to know about it and are disgusted by me cutting like a fresh chicken breast. Like I'm if their parents couldn't raise them, I can't. I'm done with them. I'm not That's not my target audience. They're somebody else can come and influence them, but my target audience is for people that are like curious about like they want to know. They're coming at me with
yeah.
questions like, how do you properly kill or dispatch a chicken or goat? Because we don't like the killing process. Like us hunters, like
Right.
legitimate hunters, that's like the hardest part of it all for us. And we do everything we can to minimize the animal's suffering, which is why we sight in our scopes. Like I have a 22 caliber long rifle for small game, and I practice
Right.
all the time whenever I can, like especially before I go on a hunt. I'm not like in a rush to kill and shoot something because I want to prioritize getting a humane shot. So that's like a big part of it, and that's like the angle we're going at it with. It's like
Oh, it should be. Yeah.
and when you hunt an animal, you put food on your plate by hunting it. That's like the deepest form of connection. This and everybody can't be a hunter, so everybody else that wants to connect, they can do so by buying from regenerative sources. You don't have to actually do
Right.
the hunting, but you can do that. You can source your labeling and it's not that much more expensive. Like you're paying for what you get, and it's
Hmm.
such a nutrient dense piece of food that it's worth the extra 20-30% increase in cost.
I
Um,
completely agree. Well, and I think that would tie down to people's money mindset. But if you're buying all this cheap stuff that is filled with stuff that's going to get you sick, you're
yeah,
going to get sick and pay for it in the long run. So,
yeah. But yeah, it's a heavy topic, and I don't think it shouldn't be because like we're talking about it right now, and I feel like we're going about it in a more logical sense here. Like, what are you going to do when you have an overpopulation of elephants? Like, other than harvest and use that meat, what do you want to do here? You know?
right. Yeah,
Uh,
it's like there would be some intervention would be needed because they don't really have natural predators. So,
yeah. Oh yeah,
yeah.
nothing will go head on at a elephant. Elephants are crazy. Elephants are so
Yeah.
powerful.
Or even they were even thinking about reintroducing the elephant in Namibia, which is also controversial because it would help with bush encroachment, help with fires and being like healthier. But then the caveat to that is they're going to destroy all the fences that are there. So it would have to restructure how everybody operates, which is not an easy feat to just do in a country and be like, oh.
Yeah, it's not. And yeah, and speaking of elephants, I just want to go a little bit of tangent to rhinos. Because I saw rhinos, I saw black rhinos from a distance and white rhinos really close. and they're like dinosaurs, like straight up dinosaurs. So that was awesome to see. I got a lot of souvenirs. I got this rosewood rhino.
Oh, I love it. Cute.
We all had to do some major negotiating for buying stuff at the spots that we were buying stuff at.
Yeah, so
Try to like be
funny.
like, okay, I can give you 8,000 shillings. How about that? And it's like you do the conversion. It's like, dude, this guy's charging me $80 for this tiny thing. Uh,
Yeah, right.
but I also got these tiny rhinos, these smaller ones.
Oh, so cute. I love the rhino as well.
Yeah, I love rhino souvenirs. They just look good on my desk, and I got a lot of little things like this stuff I'm wearing from
Oh,
local
cool.
communities. This is actually from the Brazil EE, and then
Oh,
this
wow. Okay.
this is from a street seller, a lady that was selling these, and I got a bunch of necklaces. This one's one of my favorites because it's just Africa.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's not the perfect shape, but it works.
Yeah, good
I
enough.
saw, yeah, I saw Jacqueline with the Africa necklace on the Brazil EE, and I was like amazed by it. I was like, I wish I had something like that, but I didn't feel like I deserved it because I'd never been there yet.
Yeah, I heard she calls them her charms. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
her. I know what you're talking about.
it looked great. It looked great on her. It looks so I wanted one, but I wouldn't rock it until I actually went to Africa. So I feel like I deserve
Yeah, now you
earned
earned
it.
your African necklace.
Yeah. And the connection we all made with the Maasai tribe was awesome. They gave me this thing. I wanted to show you this on video chat, but or I bought this. This is the traditional weapon that the Maasai men use. I forgot the term for it, but it's just fire hardened. It's a fire hardened wood club. So it's like a big ball of wood, and the momentum,
Oh
it'll
yeah.
very effective. And believe it or not, young Maasai men, their rite of passage into becoming like an adult, a fully formed adult man in the community is they have to go out into the African bush and subdue a male lion with nothing but
Wow.
this. Yeah.
Wow.
And
So they
that's like,
all do that?
okay, so in the past, they all did that. Now it's a lot less because lions aren't as prevalent. There's
Right.
conservation happening, but it still happens to this day in 2024. But imagine that you got nothing but this, and you just have to bop it in the nose, and it'll just get scared. You're never gonna kill a lion with this, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like lions, from what I heard, I don't know this from my personal experience, but it seems like if you kind of like put up a fight instead of run, like they might be like, I don't know, and back off. But the running, they're like, don't ever run in the bush. But when you're
yeah,
scared enough,
yeah. And the Maasai know how to do that stuff. I would need to practice that. Like I feel like if I try that, yeah, I'd be meat.
cheetah. I saw a cheetah when I like unexpectedly when I was going to the bathroom, and I ran so fast back into the safe area. And you're not supposed to run, but when you see them when you're not supposed to, I was like, shit.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I was I was taking a piss like out in the bush and like just like amongst this tall grass and acacia trees because the girls were all lining up in the bathroom and my professor told me, "Scott, you can just go anywhere." And I'm like, "Oh,
you're
awesome."
sweet.
Yeah, and then yeah, some of the girls, Kristen, she was like, "Scott, you're so fucking lucky." She's
Yeah.
so lucky because they're all waiting. So I had a blast. I felt like I got better treatment because I had to do certain things separately. It's like
Yeah.
they're all bundled up in these community tents at the eco camp. I got like this mansion situation going on for myself because I decided to pay a little bit extra. It was a
Yeah.
cottage. It was a cottage which felt very luxurious. Like they had a full shower and everything. I felt kind of guilty too. I was like, what's
Wow.
going on?
Especially after, yeah, after not like having access to showers and camping for a while, you're like that. Yeah, that's,
Well, that was before that was our first night. That was at the Wildebeest Eco Camp. But
oh, okay.
yeah, and what was I talking about? I was talking about this.
Oh, about like running. How I was like, yeah, when I went to the bathroom, I ran so fast when I saw a cheetah, and you're like, not supposed to do that. And I just
Oh
regret
yeah,
it all.
I was just gonna share with you a similar experience. So I was peeing out in the bush. It was daytime still, but nobody could see me, and I heard like something climbing up an acacia tree. and my heart skipped a beat because I thought it was a leopard. And I
Yeah.
saw the tail, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I wasn't scared. I was fascinated. I was trying to like get my phone out, but it was a monkey. It was just a monkey. Yeah.
So yeah, but the noises though, you're like your heart rate goes from it's yeah, it feels very Jurassic Parky.
And at night, you have to unzip your tent, put on your headlamp, and find your way to the bathroom. No matter what sounds are going on, but they're off in the distance. It wasn't like they were in the camp. But so when I did that, I still decided to pee out in nature instead of the bathroom. And I just saw like the dark silhouette of this acacia tree with the starry sky in the background. And then
Wow.
it seemed so ominous though, because the tree was like jet black and the grass was black. Everything was black. And I'm just out here peeing. And then I suddenly felt very vulnerable, kind of like how you felt like you were being watched. And
Yeah.
I just thought from like a lion or hyena's perspective, this hominid, and I thought of like my spine and how vulnerable it is right now to like, if I was a lion, that's a small spine. That's easily snappable. That's easy meat right there. And I was like just peeing faster and faster, trying to get
Yeah.
out of there. Yeah.
I felt that way too, where I was like, wow, you're just aware that so much is watching you. Like even and it blew my mind that these giant animals could be so well hidden and camouflaged and quiet when they wanted to. I was like, whoa. But also it made me feel really connected. It was this like mutual feeling of feeling not safe at all and also entirely at ease and peaceful. It was like this is a very contrasting way to feel.
Definitely. Um, I love this discussion. I love how we talked about like the whole existing with nature instead of putting labels on stuff, especially hunting. But is there any subtopic you want to dive into right now? I feel like I've been talking a little too much.
No, not at all. No, I feel like that. I mean, I covered everything I could really think of it. I feel like we've had similar but different experiences. And for the next I'm, yeah, obviously interesting if we cross paths because I'm interested in Mongolia and Borneo and Kenya are my like top three.
Okay. Yeah, I want to do them all, but in terms of prioritizing them, I love the livestock guardian stuff. That sounds incredible to me. So you said
Yeah.
what Congol's Anatolian Shepherd, are they the same thing? Anatolian
So
Shepherd?
they interchange them. It's a controversial topic if they're a different breed or not, but for all intents and purposes, I think they're the same.
Okay.
They're like a breed from Turkey, and they're huge.
Yeah, because whenever I search up what dog breed has the highest bite force, it's like Congo, and
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
they're like you said, more powerful bite force than a lion.
yeah. That blew my mind. I was like, no way. But
Yeah,
yeah,
lions have like so much power and force. They also have a great bite force, but I feel like the overall size and strength of the lion allows them to kill, whereas a hyena is just the sheer pressure of the jaw. It'll crack bones and stuff. So the Congos are similar.
yeah.
Probably
They're also
probably not as
interesting.
much bite force as a hyena, right?
Probably not. Yeah, I don't think they can go through bone. But and interesting too, we learned about a little bit about African wild dogs and got so close to almost seeing some. Like they were around us in Botswana, but I didn't fully see them. I just saw the grass that was being moved from
Yeah.
them. They're super fascinating, and the more I learned about them, the more I wanted to learn about them of how efficient of hunters they are. And they've got like packs of 10 plus, and they're super cool.
They're so cool. I love all carnivores and especially like canids. So like this is on my shelf. This is a thing I got
Oh
from
yeah,
that's from
that's so cool.
this is actually from a wildlife sanctuary in Missouri. Uh the World Bird Sanctuary, I think it was that I got this from, which is
Wow.
but yeah, I love carnivores, which is why this Kenya EE, I was just like radiating joy of just being there, you know. Whereas the Brazil EE, I also loved because I love the biodiversity of South America, but the primary focus was golden lion tamarins, and I love them too. But I'm way more interested personally in large carnivores, canids, big cats, enormous ungulates. That whole ecosystem is what fascinates me more than any other wildlife system on Earth. Like that's why I love Africa. That's why I love the Kodiak Islands with those giant brown bears. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's like on the Brazil EE, everybody would be like, oh, GLT, 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 and I'm just like acting off like impressed. I'm like, I love that they're there, but I'm not like that fascinated by them. And
Hmm.
yeah, I didn't want to like just like reduce everyone's energy for it, but I was like putting on a mask there a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. You're like Africa wildlife was more your jam.
Like I was most impressed by the mountain lion, the puma that was caught on the camera.
Hmm.
That's and the large snakes that exist out there. But I love all wildlife. I love the whole system. Um,
Yeah.
I got to hold an African rock python in East Africa
Oh,
at Nairobi.
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, the snakes always fascinate me. I always think I'm going to see more snakes, but we were told, I think because it's winter there, that a lot of the snakes were like in their like rumination and that they weren't really out.
Mhm.
But we saw black mamba skin, like the shell that they shed, which was cool. And when we were in Botswana and setting up our tent, they were like, "Yeah, this place is like tons of snakes." So they're like, "Make sure when you go to the bathroom at night, you're checking for like black mamba and things like that, because that's
Yeah.
not cool."
And those are
So
so scary. So a mamba venom is yeah.
yeah, did you guys have any? Were you near any water? Like, did you have hippo, or were you mostly like landlocked?
We saw a little water. We saw hippos in small lakes and ponds in Amboseli and in Nairobi National Park. When I went, I saw the hippos as well, but we were off at a distance. We
Yeah.
got we got really close to rhinos, giraffe, and elephant. Not super close, but closer than everything else. Like
Hmm.
I was about 20 yards from rhinos, white rhinos, massive white rhinos with fully intact horns. It was the most beautiful sight. Like this
Yeah.
huge horn, like it looked like it was 4 feet long. And
Yeah.
it's because I was asking my guide, like, how come these horns are so beautiful and intact? Because in my mind, they're always like being trimmed to prevent like the hunter's demand. Like that's what
Right.
I see mainly on the TV and stuff and on YouTube. So he was like saying Nairobi National Park is one of the most heavily guarded national parks in Africa. So poachers are not a problem here, which is why their
Oh.
horns just are full. They're full horns on those rhinos.
Wow. So that was interesting because I heard in Botswana they're pretty successful with their stuff against poachers. So I've heard, and then in South Africa they're not at all. And it was actually really, really, really sad. We went to Jackie's place. She used to work the national park she guided at, and it used to be like the one of the number one places for rhino. And she was so excited to show me. And we went there. We hardly saw any rhino. Like their whole ecosystem or little area that the rhino were in was all burned, which is part of the healthy normal like ecosystem, but it added to the drama of like hardly any rhino were there. We saw like two after we were there for 12 hours at the end of the day, and she was like, this place used to be like all rhino. And then she found out that the entire rhino clan that she knew and observed for like a year or two got poached, like every single one of them, like slaughtered. And
Wow.
then they had all these babies that were orphans. So she's working at a rhino sanctuary for those or for the orphanage there. But it was really, really sad to just see all that. And then they said that now, like it was getting to a point where they were poaching 30 rhino a day in that park alone. And there's not that much rhino to even have 30 a day be killed. So they recently now cut the horns down, take the horn out, and then they've found that it's reduced it to now like 2 to 3 poachings a day. But it was just the difference again per country even was eye-opening to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sad because of the genetic diversity drop from killing three a day even.
Yeah.
That population of
Yeah.
rhinos is not going to have much genetic diversity after that.
Yeah, and there's like snares that are everywhere where even people's like pet dogs were getting caught up in snares for just hunting done in a non-sustainable way. They're like a lot of the wilderness would just be all of these snares and it would catch everything. So it's
Wow.
just in South Africa was just kind of wild to see. And obviously, this was one little part of South Africa. Maybe there are parts that do it better, but it was crazy to see just so many differences between the three countries in the southern region of a continent. Like it was just different than what I expected.
I definitely want to go back to Africa. It's like I feel like I got like not even 1% of a taste of,
I know.
but
I
that
felt
one
the
was
same.
amazing.
I felt the same where I was like, every country I went to, I'm like, I just saw a taste of that country. And then there's like a million more countries. Like there's so much to see. Yeah, I want to go back for sure too.
Um, but I had an incredible trip. Like, it was very efficient usage of time, like how much experience I gained in 2 weeks. Um, real quick, I wanted to go again, change the topic a little bit. Since you train
Sure.
dogs, my friend, he
Mhm.
has a German Shepherd, a 75-pound long-haired German Shepherd, so he looks bigger than 75 pounds. And it's cool because
Yeah.
he's about to take him for a walk, bring him to my house a little bit. He can't really bring him inside because I have a cat, and yeah, and he barks. The when he barks, the German Shepherd, it's loud and terrifying, kind of. But he's a
Yeah.
nice dog with humans. But he is a little jumpy and hyper, and tends to scare people just for the simple fact that he's a 75-pound long-haired German Shepherd. But he
Fair.
hasn't
Yeah.
actually bitten people. But I just want to know more about like dog training a little bit, if you don't mind. Like, how do you go about that issue with a
Yeah.
bit too much of a rambunctious German Shepherd?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like everything I do is very individualized to the dog and the humans that I'm working with. So a lot of it is dogs doing normal dog behavior and it not jiving in people's, in our human society. So depending on what it is, if it's truly like like relatively harmless behavior that's just a nuisance, like you can teach them through like positive reinforcement how to have all four paws on the ground and, you know, to just kind of reward them for not jumping or right before they think to jump. You kind of catch them and teach them to do that more. But if it's like behavior issues that are a little bit more complex, I go like super, super deep into it with a really long questionnaire of their history, of what they eat and how inflammation can impact their mood and
Ooh,
behavior. So it's really fascinating. And it's very similar to with people of if we're inflamed or in pain, we aren't acting our best. And then our tolerance for stress goes down. The same is true for animals, for dogs. So
you have
yeah.
like sprawling knowledge on dog care. It's not just training; it's like the diet as well.
Yeah, well, I'm not I don't have any like formal education in like dogs need to eat XYZ, but I do know that a lot of the foods we feed are processed and the way that they're cooked is basically adding a lot of inflammation and reducing nutrient absorption. So a lot of similar things we see in people with poor diets and how they feel brain fog, sleep's impacted, all these other issues are happening in pet dogs. But if they're fed more like whole real foods doesn't necessarily mean everyone needs to be cooking for their dog, but adding to the diversity of their microbiome and just better
Ooh,
foods, it can help a lot. So I've had some clients where they call me for aggression. We help heal the inflammation and the aggression goes away without us directly doing anything on the aggression. It's
see,
fascinating.
there's also like a whole environmental side to that. Like, how much dog meat is being produced for dogs in the US? It's like, and where's the that meat coming from? I feel like it's factory farming, a lot of it.
Oh, it is. It's all from the things that they can't sell to people. So it's like if it's the sick meat that the scraps on the floor, and then they process and cook it at a super, super high temperature, like the cheap dog food. And the
Yeah.
way that that's cooked is basically turning it into this like toxic poison that is in their body. And then a lot of dogs aren't wanting to eat dog food anymore. They like turn their nose up at it.
Oh, yeah, it's the
And
worst kind
that's
of meat.
well, and if you think about it, like dogs are scavengers. What scavenger in like the world would turn their nose up at a free meal? That doesn't make sense. So, like something they're smelling is in that food that they do not want, and we should listen to it.
Yeah, that goes to show how bad that food is, how overly processed it is. And like I've always
Yeah.
loved the idea of having a dog and giving it a raw diet. like 2 quail eggs, some ground meat, some bone to chew on. Because I watch like YouTubers that do that with their dogs. It's more expensive, sure, but it's like don't get a dog if you're not willing to give it the best like treatment, because that food's really bad for them. And if you already have a dog, that's fine. And if you can't afford food, that's totally fine. But it's like I don't want to. I really want a dog right now, but I don't want to get one where I can't give it that diet, that natural diet. So I'll contact you again for advice on how to make that diet.
Yeah, well, even with the like making of your own recipes, like every individual, humans too, like, nutritional needs are so different. So there are some risks associated with like if you're not giving them the full nutrient density that a dog specifically needs. So you need to make sure your recipes are nutriently complete.
Yeah.
But if you can't do all that, like I don't have the time or the means for that, but I have done research and listened to like podcasts from people I trust of finding it's like a kibble type dog food that is minimally processed with really high quality meats and vegetables and things like that. And then I add like fresh toppers to it that I already have in my kitchen. So like pasture raised, eggs or maybe wild caught sardines and sometimes kale. So it's making it a little bit better and diverse. But then for what I can afford, it works for me. So I don't have to actually like I'm like I can hardly cook for myself every day. So
Yeah, exactly. But yes,
finding that.
just some effort has to be put in there to where you're not giving it that worst of the worst kibble where it has no microbiome benefits. It's just dead meat that they're turning those up to as scavengers. That's like goes to
Yeah.
show how bad that is. It's like poison, like you said.
Yeah, and
For the dog.
so many vets are just like, yep, give them this diet and like pushing these like brand name foods
Oh,
that they get like told to do in the school. And
yeah,
it's like, oh, it's a individualized diet. But I'm like, it's like an ant. No one should be on one type of food for their whole life. You need diversity in what you eat.
that's what
And
they
so,
recommended for my cat when he had a
yeah.
urinary tract infection, and I'm
And
like, for the rest of his life. They're like, yep. I'm like, I'm gonna do some research on my own.
yeah, they always say that. I'm like, I have so many clients like that. I'm like, if your biome is so thrown off by adding any little thing to it, like there's a bigger problem. And I feel like it's a band-aid to be like, you have to eat this one
Yeah.
thing forever. So
A
it's,
lot of it
yeah,
has to do with the cycle of money. So they have constant income. Like and that's pharmaceutical companies in America too for humans.
yeah, well, like pushing it into the textbooks, because I don't think it's any vet doing anything wrong, really. Like, I think that most of them have the best intentions. I think, and they're doing what they're taught. I
Yeah.
think something's going off in some of the textbooks. It's just my controversial opinion on that.
I mean, there's so many influencers that are really raw and honest about it now, and it's given me a lot more courage to just talk about it on podcasts because I was always scared that these big corporations will shut down my channel and all that. But it's not
Yeah.
now because like there's so many influencers now that are literally saying it all, laying it out there, and they got massive followings. So I think I'm safe at the channel size I have right now.
Hmm.
But I eventually want to shed as much light as I can about it. It's like the system, how corrupt it is. Not individual doctors that are taught the way of the system, but the system itself is corrupt. It's
Hmm.
like 75% of advertisements in the US are medication and drugs.
Yeah.
And there's
It's
like
just
no
ridiculous.
other country in the world that does it like where it's that much of a percentage. So
And
yeah,
so much of this our food, it just makes us so sick. It's like it's sad and scary. I'm like, we have to pay so much extra to hopefully have food that won't make us sick because the baseline is going to be food that will make us sick.
yeah, it's so hard to be healthy. And just in the US, in terms of like what's available, what's in front of your face, the ads that you get consumed everywhere. It's either like when I'm watching a basketball game, all the ads are either like um a form of medication or a form of junk food. It seemed like that was like
Mhm.
90% of it. Like, oh, Doritos commercial, some other junk food commercial, and then can you imagine seeing like a commercial from a regenerative farm? Like that's never happened.
Amazing.
I've
Yeah.
never seen. Yeah, and it sucks that
Right.
you can see
That'd
it.
be that'd be a good inquiry action you could do for your like IAP of like even just tracking like what commercials come on in like certain time
Yeah.
periods. much of it's fast food compared to anything that's sustainable. That'd be
Oh
actually
yeah.
really.
Yeah, I'll consider that. I wanted to say this because I kind of backlogged this. I wanted to bring this up again about the dog
Sure.
meat, the dog food. Dog dog kibble that's been overly processed versus like a regenerative, more natural source of meat. Like where was I gonna go with this? Hold on, let me try to formulate my question here.
You're good.
Okay, this is what I remember. Okay, so in America, anthropomorphizing dogs, you know, those dog breeds like pugs and small poodles and stuff that girls put in their purse. They literally have
Mhm.
a dog just for company. And the Maasai, they don't have dogs for that reason, and they find it strange how many people have dogs in America. They're like everybody seems like they have a dog. Um, and if you look at most other cultures outside of Western culture, people have dogs for a purpose, and either livestock guardian dogs or they're fulfilling some role. And that just makes that's such a good system where you have a dog for a reason as well as a companion because you gotta love it. There's love between humans and dogs, you know. That's like there's no argument there. We've evolved
Mhm.
alongside them. But a dog is most happiest when it has a job to do. They're not like cats where cats are independent. They're just like you work for me. Fill my water bowl, fill my food bowl and I'm good. I'm good. But dogs they
Mhm.
need attention, they need a job and I reading Jack London's books, you know, White Fang, Call of the Wild, it made me really open my eyes to like how happy a dog is when it has a task and it's like fully committed to doing that task to please its master or owner, whatever you want to call it. For Jack London's books, it was pulling a sled, and the dog was the most alive when it was pulling a sled, and to the point where there was a dog that got injured and it was older, and he was trying to take him off the sled, but the dog would not move. He was like, "No, I'm pulling the sled." It was a really sad scene because like it broke a bone, but it didn't want to stop pulling the sled because it felt like that was its purpose in life. So like
Mhm.
we need to have dogs in like a purpose more so than just your own desire to have a dog. That's like kind of a selfish reason to have a dog. And yeah, it's I don't know if that's controversial. I feel like that's fact. Um, we should like disperse that knowledge more to the US population. So like because like if you look at even a small dog, how much meat it eats its entire life, it's so much meat. And if less people had dogs for less selfish reasons, that's so good for the environment. Like it'll
Mhm.
reduce the need for that type of meat by so much.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting perspective, and I think I agree to it to a degree, and then also I think that we've created a problem over arguably thousands of years with breeding dogs and whatnot. That now there are breeds or types of dogs that I that don't really want to work to please people, and there are a ton that do, and then there are a ton that just have this innate drive that work really collaboratively with people. And I had this kind of realization in Africa too, where I was like, all these dogs have a purpose. Like it was like this eye-opening thing. It was very different than out here. But the dogs that I see here are like even pugs have been like a breed for thousands of years to be like sitting on king's laps and to like or sit their purpose was to be pet dogs and companions. And so I find it interesting, and I agree. I think that breeding dogs should probably go down and decrease. And I think I never looked at it from a sustainability point of view, but that's so true. I more looked at it as I feel bad for dogs that are stuck in an apartment with no enrichment, no like anything, no free choice, no autonomy. And these dogs that were working dogs were all off leash, all running around, like had all these freedoms of choice and seemed happier because of that. And also, one other thing too, we've bred dogs to have this innate drive to do certain purposes that they'll literally kill themselves to do that thing, depending on the dog breed. So like even like retrievers, they will never stop fetching a ball until they like, even if they broke their legs, they like hardly ever will stop. It's a little unhealthy. And I think you could even pull back the ethics of all of that, of how much we've meddled with dogs in breeding, of like working for us or not. And so now I kind of just have an open mind,
Yeah.
and I think like dogs are happiest having free choice, but also we live in a society in the US where they can't. So I don't know. I think a lot of it's a symptom of our disconnect from nature, and now domesticated animals are falling victim to that as well.
Yeah, like if you have a dog, just because you want a dog, that's also fine. But I feel like we should be doing less of that as like a country. Like if every house has a dog, that's like even a small dog. If you just add up the pounds of meat it consumes throughout its 10-year life, 15-year life, that's a lot of
Mhm.
meat, and the carbon
Yeah.
footprint.
Well, and a lot of people are now feeding their dogs vegan diets, which is a whole nother controversial opinion because
Yeah,
they're not,
dogs are not. Yeah,
yeah, they're obligate carnivores. They're technically not even omnivores, but
like feeding a
yeah,
tiger plant-based foods, it's like, why are you doing that to that animal?
it's a whole controversial thing. It's interesting. But yeah, I feel like I think getting the demand from breed, there's just so much. My brain's going a mile a minute. There are ethical breeders that are helping people get pet dogs, and that they're doing things I think in a healthy way. And then
Mhm.
there's a huge population that are having dogs irresponsibly that keep breeding at a rapid rate, filling up all these shelters and humane societies and things up. And then if the demand for dogs go down, then all those dogs would be euthanized as well. So there's that part.
Oh man.
I kind of go into it like morally neutral, but yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It's complex for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it's a whole nother industry. Yeah, and like I love all dogs, like I love pugs too. The ones that are here, I want them all to be well taken care of, but I want to stop producing more of them with more deformities, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
lot of health issues. Yeah. Well, and all like the flat-faced dogs in general, like they can hardly regulate their temperature. A lot of them can't mate on their own. Like there's a lot of health issues with them. So I agree morally. I think it's wrong, but
I
I
hope
also,
it's that in our culture where it's like less of that
yeah,
being produced, less birth rates of like purebred dogs.
yeah. Well, and they'll use purebred dogs. Like I mean, like the livestock guardian dogs were technically purebred, but they're using some mutts as well now over there because it's been working well. But yeah, I think there's a lot we don't know, and I think we have to all be okay with like being open-minded. And there's a lot we don't know with dogs, where you would think we would because we've been with them for so long. You'd think there'd be ample research. There's not as much known about that
Purebred
as you.
was the wrong term there. I shouldn't have used purebred because you could create purebred dog breeds that serve their purpose better. Like huskies,
Yeah.
flats, German short-haired pointers help you hunt waterfowl, where they have a job and it's like a partnership there, not just like a bond of love with no partnership. But
Mm,
that's like the ideal connection I think between a human and a dog, where there's love and a mutual benefit there. Because, and again, not that like if you have a dash hunt, you that's bad. Like that's awesome. It's giving you so much joy and love. So it's a gray area, yeah. But we should be doing less of the I want a dog. Let's go buy a dog. Uh,
yeah.
we should be just
'Cause I,
putting
yeah.
more thought into it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 'cause I think for working breeds, I would agree with you, but then there's a whole breed type that are more, they're kind of labeled under natural breed type dogs that act more like cats, that are like, they don't care usually about pleasing you unless that's also in their best interest.
Okay.
So those are my favorite dogs to train and work with because I find them so fun and challenging, and I like that. But they're just more into things as looking for opportunities, and like if they want to escape, they're going to find a way to escape. Like they're so smart, and some of them truly do love their person that they're with, and that's their favorite thing. And they love their comfortable living areas. So they can kind of get like how people have grown more domesticated. Like I've met lots of dogs that you'll be like, let's go hiking. And they'll be like, no, thanks. Like I want to lay on my little couch.
Yeah.
So it
And
depends on the dog for
yeah, and
sure.
there's so many mental benefits you get from having a dog as part of your family. So there's benefits there to where it's not like doing anything in
Mhm.
terms of hunting and stuff. So yeah, I'm not fully against that, but the whole thing about the carbon footprint of a dog's diet and just the mentality, the Eastern mentality of the Western view of dogs, they're always wondering why we have so many of them and like so many ones for like it's to them, it seems like we have it for no reason. It's just like we want one. Whereas like the tribes, like Hadzabe tribe in Tanzania, they're the last hunter-gatherers of on Earth of humans, as far as I know. And so they're the most deeply connected human culture with nature. And they have a bunch of dogs, about 30-pound dogs that help them hunt. And
Mhm.
with the dog's ability to smell whatever they're hunting, they hunt. And without the dogs, they couldn't locate the prey item. So that's how they help them. And it's a beautiful connection. And they love their dogs. They don't, it's not like there's no love there. It's just they're not
Right.
always hugging and playing with them. It's more so like, yeah, this is my dog. We hunted today. I'm eating the meat right now, and that's their culture. So it's important to have an open mind as from the Western style of thinking, because I've been on both sides of it, and I would love to hunt with a dog. Like I feel like that would be so cool to
Yeah.
acquire food with another species. Like that's so fascinating to me, and we share
Agree.
that
Yeah.
food, you know.
It's cool. Yeah. There's so much in the in the dog world that I feel like I'm an expert in my niche, but there's a million other niches within the dog world that absolutely blow my mind. And I just keep being shocked at anytime I think I know a lot, I like have a life experience where I'm like, wow, I know nothing.
Same here. We can only know in our niche, you know, the knowledge is too vast. Like even Albert Einstein didn't know as much as people think he knows.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah.
But
But it's an interesting topic that you're making me want to dive more into the sustainability of like dog ownership even is a cool facet there.
sustainability of it, that's tricky because there's a high chance of pissing people off with that, but you have to just deliver the message well and come with
Yeah.
data, you know. Um, One data that I always use in multiple papers is Qantas, the company Qantas, did a carbon life cycle assessment of White Oak Pasture's beef patties and Burger King's Impossible Burger beef patty. And the results
Mhm.
were so funny because the White Oak Pasture's beef patty had a net negative carbon footprint, whereas the Impossible Burger had a positive carbon footprint after all the processes gone
Right.
into making a plant-based patty. That's actually
Yeah.
worse for the environment, even though they're claiming that plant-based is better. So that's what I
Yeah.
use all the time. Yeah.
Well, that's so interesting because I used to be vegetarian and I was vegan for a hot second. And then I remember like thinking like, oh, it's always bad. And then the more I learned was like, well, actually, if you do it regeneratively, like that, and have, cattle that are able to move and the soil can like replenish, it's actually, yeah, that net negatives have changed my mind on it too.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way the cattle, when they're rotated, the way they impact the grassland communities is they make them grow faster and better. Because like grasslands and pastures and ungulates, hoofed animals, they evolved in tandem. They evolved together. So like you can't take one away from each other and expect them to function the same. So they need each other. So it's like it's kind of like an ecosystem. It is an ecosystem. It's beautiful. And White Oak Pastures, I recommend you follow them on Instagram. They are so good at that rotational grazing. The
I think
owner,
maybe I've
yeah,
heard of them through you, but I feel like I've definitely seen them on Instagram or something. Yeah.
yeah, they're killing it right now. I think they're the biggest regenerative farm in the US. It's like 3,000 plus acres. So the guy who owns it, Will Harris, he studied African ecology under Alan Savory in Zimbabwe. And everything he learned
Cool.
in Africa, he applies on his farm right now in America, in Georgia, like trying to
Wow.
create that ecosystem. And it's so beautiful.
Very
Like,
cool.
yeah, like the cows on his farm, they have like a line of birds sitting on their backs, and it's just like another species there, species here. Biodiversity is enhanced all throughout his land. It's a beautiful it's a sight to behold, honestly. Like when I went there, I was like, it feels like I'm out in nature. It doesn't feel like I'm in a farm.
I love that. That is really cool. I'm excited to look into that more. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
that's
send
the way it should be. And I love that he learned that from Africa. That's really cool.
Yeah, and yeah, it's an amazing farm, and there's a lot of farms like that popping up, smaller farms, and I love how regenerative farmers are like it's growing. The army is growing because the demand is growing with all these influencers talking about it. Um, but I think your side of you said like the what you know about dogs, your specific niche, you feel like it's very specific. I feel like that's needed though. Like
Hmm.
you specialize in the dog behavior in the human environment, I feel. And
Hmm.
like I'm always trying to like learn more about that if like once I do get a dog to do it the proper way, and you probably have all the knowledge for that. So it's needed.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, and it impacts people's mental health a lot. So it's kind of like a people and dog like issue in a way. Because if your dog's trying to bite everybody, you can't have guests over, you can't travel, it really impacts your quality of life too.
That's definitely needed. Yeah, I never meant to like downplay your niche, but I
No,
was
you
just
didn't at all. No, you're good.
yeah, because like for instance, I heard like for high energy dog breeds like German Shepherds and stuff, people often make the mistake of walking them too much or running them too much, and basically their dog becomes like fit and athletic and
Yeah,
like
like an athlete.
more yeah. It's like I feel like you
Yeah.
would know the alternative to that, where you give it more mental exercise and mental stimulation that gets them tired instead of this just
Yeah.
physical.
Yeah, too. And I think if we lived in the ways that we used to, it would be less of a problem. But again, even if you exercise your dog perfectly and you're in an apartment, I think it's just really hard for some dogs that are meant to have just free roam and free range of running around. But
Yeah, and then
it's
it's
not.
like not everybody has the money to have that land, and land is becoming so expensive.
Especially out here in San Diego, I don't know anyone who has a yard. It's like it's just apartment on top of apartment on top of apartment. So, and everybody here has dogs
Yeah.
and high energy breed dogs. I'm like, where do these dogs run? Like, there's not that many off-leash dog parks. Or if your dog doesn't get along with other dogs, you can't just let them run off leash without a safety risk. So if you have a high energy dog that can't be off leash and you don't
Okay.
have a fence, you're
Well,
kind
you
of
always got work then with your location.
I do, yeah. I was like, I will never be out of business out here.
That's awesome. I was,
Yeah.
I was trying to find this video on like dog breeds to send you. Once I find it, it was a funny video on YouTube. It got millions of views. It was just talking about like everything we just talked about with Western culture and the dog breeds and how different deformities we're creating purely for our own desire, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad.
Once I find it, I will send it to you. It was a really funny video. It was well done.
Yeah. Please do. Yeah, that's a controversial topic too in the dog world, but I've always felt
Oh,
strongly about it.
oh, sorry. No, I accidentally played one of my videos.
You're good.
I don't know if you thought I said that. That was yeah, me in a video.
No, no, I couldn't even hear. Yeah, it just sounded like muffling.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's an hour and a half in. I feel like this was a great one because we
Yeah.
covered a lot of ground, and it's good to have two people talking about these complex topics. There's like no other way to like dive deep into them where it's digestible for viewers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we talked about a lot. So, yeah, always happy to hop on and I love talking about things like that. So,
Yeah, I feel like it helps both of us because like you can express these ideas that are just sitting in your head more better.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm trying to branch out and do more just like outreach and content stuff myself for my business and so
Oh yeah,
it's
I've
yeah,
been
all
watching your Instagram reels. They're well done. They're well edited. I don't know much
thank
about,
you.
yeah, I don't know how to create reels yet because I've just been focusing on YouTube, long form YouTube, but I want to jump in on reels. Yeah,
Yeah.
your stuff is great, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a learning curve. I'm still learning and I've been putting off going back into it since I've returned from Africa, but this week I need to get back into
Do
it.
you do all your editing on your phone or do you have like a computer software that you use for video editing?
Yeah, I do it all on my phone, but I do it through either CapCut, which is an app, it's free,
Mhm.
or I'll just do it on Instagram. But Instagram has a lot of bugs that it's really annoying because you'll like make this perfect video and then you'll hit submit and then it messes it all up. So I prefer CapCut and
I've run into
Canva.
that too. I feel like that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why I haven't dove deeper into it. I'm just like, what is going on right now?
Yeah, it's
It's
so
not,
annoying. Yeah,
yeah.
I'm like I spent all this time on this like beautiful work of art and then it's just gonna butcher it.
I feel like with practice you'll work out the kinks, figure out like why that's happening. But yeah, I want to jump in on creating some Instagram reels myself. I just want to do a mashup of like some of the epic moments of this EE with like a cool song. Because advantage of Instagram Reels is you can use songs without copyright issues. Uh,
Yeah,
it makes for great content. Like, because I have so much
agree.
music I love, but I can't use it in my YouTube long form content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so true. I know, because then they like ban you or whatever, give you like they do take it off.
Yeah. You can do like really short snippets of music, but that's not enough to actually create a video. Um, Especially when you do scene changes with the beat drops of songs, that's when you make the best content. Like if you can figure out how to merge your video with the music, it just looks so good. People think you're a pro if you can just do that, you know?
Yeah,
So
they have I think just the AI software can do that automatically on Instagram right now, where it will like pick a song and then automatically like shuffle your videos and photos to make it match the song. I did that for I had like a
that's
reel
great.
for one of my Africa trips and it kind of did that. And I was like, oh, cool.
It saves a lot of work.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly. Cool.
What is that like in? I'll find it in the somewhere in the Instagram settings.
Yeah, so it's if you just go to make a reel and then you select, let's say, like a bunch of videos and photos, then the next thing when you hit the arrow button, it will like ask what songs you'd want to play with it, and it will give you like an automatic one for at least like five that will have as like a demo on the bottom. Doesn't
Okay.
necessarily, I haven't figured out how to do it for whatever song you pick, but it will for like a select amount of songs on the bottom.
Okay, gotcha. Well, yeah, I wish you all the
You just
best.
have to
I'm trying to grow my YouTube here, and then I feel like we're both like create content creators, and I hope we both like grow
yeah.
our followings. We do future podcasts together.
Yeah, likewise. I know it's a grind, but I respect it. So yeah, I'm excited to watch you grow with that, and also maybe we'll be on the same EE. We never know.
Oh yeah,
For the-
unless I end up doing Namibia because you made me do it and want to do it so badly.
yeah, true. I
Yeah,
know it was super cool. So yeah, either
I'm
way,
debating between Namibia and Mongolia right now, and those two are in the lead. Do you
yeah.
have any plans of doing Mongolia or desire?
Yeah, no, Mongolia was one of my top three. But I'm not sure yet.
It's just a part of the world I've never been in. I know nothing about. That's why I want to do it. So
Same.
I get the most amount of experience.
And I like the Perspelski's horse, but I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
how. And I guess that maybe it would be a good growing opportunity. I'm like, I don't know how much I care about grasslands, but I'm sure it's fascinating enough that I would love it.
Yeah, that's why I want to do it, the grassland stuff, because of cattle rotation mainly. Um,
Yeah,
but then again, I want to do Namibia for like what you just said about like harvesting from the ecosystem in that way. So it's very similar. There's really no
yeah,
wrong answer here. I just got to decide
exactly.
between those two. There's no wrong answer for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an hour and 40 minutes. That was great. That was awesome. So thank you, Ashley, for doing
Thank
this.
you. Yeah, well, I wish you the best and I hope you have a good rest of your day and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, good luck with your client at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Good luck finishing your edits and all that.
Oh yeah, I'll be sharing stuff on my stories and whatnot. So you'll see, you'll see.
Excited. Okay, well, have a good rest of your day and yeah, we'll talk in a bit.
Awesome.
Bye.
Looking forward to seeing your content too.
Thank you. Bye.
See you later.